Your hands are shaking, your throat feels tight. You haven't said a single word yet, but your body already thinks something is wrong. You tell yourself it's just nerves. You tell yourself everyone feels this way, but the real answer is far stranger than nerves. Your body isn't afraid of public speaking. It's afraid of something much older. Walk into any office, classroom, or wedding reception and watch what happens the moment someone is asked to stand and speak. Their hands find their pockets. Their voice climbs half an octave. Their palms go damp before they've said a single sentence. You've felt it yourself. Maybe you're feeling an echo of it right now, just thinking about it. Here's the strange part. You are not afraid of the words. You are not even afraid of getting them wrong. You are afraid of something your conscious mind can't name, because it was never built to name it. It was built to survive it. Rewind 200,000 years. Strip away the microphone, the slideshow, the boardroom table. Put yourself instead in a small band of humans, maybe 30 people, huddled around a fire on an open plain. There is no police force. There is no supermarket. There is no safety net except the group itself. If that group decides you don't belong, there is no version of tomorrow where you survive alone. This is the environment your nervous system was actually built for, not a stage, not a Zoom call. A tiny group where you're standing in it determined whether you ate this week, whether you were protected from predators, whether you found a mate at all. Being looked at by the group wasn't neutral. Being looked at meant you were being evaluated, and being evaluated meant your life could change in an instant, for better or devastatingly worse. So your brain built a warning system, a fast one that didn't wait for logic. That system still runs today. Every single time you stand in front of people, even if those people are your coworkers holding coffee mugs, your ancient alarm system reads the room exactly the way it would have read that fire circle. Eyes on you equals evaluation. Evaluation equals risk. Risk equals a body flooded with chemicals designed for one purpose only, to help you survive the next 10 seconds. Neuroscientist Joseph Ledoux spent decades tracing this exact response to a small, almond-shaped structure buried deep in your brain called the amygdala. Ledoux's research showed something that still unsettles people when they first hear it. Your amygdala can trigger a full fear response before the thinking part of your brain even finishes processing what it's looking at. You don't decide to be afraid of public speaking. Your amygdala decides for you, and it decides in a fraction of a second, long before your prefrontal cortex gets a vote. That's why you can know, intellectually, that nothing bad is going to happen, and your hands still shake anyway. Knowing doesn't override the alarm. The alarm was never built to listen to knowing. There's a reason researchers had to invent a very specific kind of experiment to study this. In the 1990s, a psychologist named Clemens Kirschbaum developed something called the Trier Social Stress Test. It sounds clinical. It is anything but. Participants are asked to give an unprepared speech in front of a panel of strangers who have been instructed to sit perfectly still, show no emotion, and give no encouraging nods. The panel doesn't need to say a single critical word. Their blankness alone is enough. Cortisol levels spike. Heart rates climb. Hands, predictably, begin to shake. Kirschbaum's test has become one of the most reliable ways to reproduce acute stress in a laboratory, and it works precisely because it recreates that ancient scenario with uncomfortable precision. A group, watching, withholding judgment, silent. Silence, it turns out, is one of the most threatening signals a human group can send, which brings us to something even stranger. Your body isn't just afraid of criticism, it's afraid of exclusion, and those are not the same fear. In the early 2000s, a social psychologist named Kip Williams designed a deceptively simple experiment called Cyberball. Participants believed they were playing a virtual game of catch with two other people online. In reality, the other two players were computer programs, and at a certain point, they simply stopped throwing the ball to the participant. No insult, no confrontation, just quiet exclusion. The brain scans of people being left out of a make-believe ball game lit up in regions associated with actual physical pain. Williams's research suggested something your instincts already knew before science caught up. Being excluded doesn't just feel bad. Your brain processes it using some of the same circuitry it uses for physical injury. Now imagine standing at a podium. Every face in that room is a potential vote on whether you belong. Every blank expression could be read by that old and untrusting part of your brain as the first sign of the group turning away from you. Your hands aren't shaking because of the content of your speech. They're shaking because some ancient, illiterate, deeply protective part of you is bracing for exile. It gets stranger still. You'd think evolution would have smoothed this reaction out by now. After all, humans have been standing up and addressing groups for as long as we've had language, which is a very long time. Storytellers around fires, elders passing down survival knowledge, chiefs rallying their people before a hunt. Surely somewhere in all that repetition, the fear should have faded. But that's exactly backwards. The people who spoke in front of groups thousands of generations ago were not competing to sound impressive. They were often making decisions that determined whether the entire band lived or starved, where to move the camp, when to attack, whether to trust the strangers approaching from the ridge. Getting it wrong in front of the group wasn't embarrassing. It was potentially fatal for you and for everyone listening. So the fear didn't fade. It sharpened, because the stakes of being watched and judged by your group were once about as high as stakes can get. Here's the twist most people never consider. This fear response isn't a flaw in your design, it is your design working exactly as intended. Your shaking hands are not a malfunction. They are a 400,000-year-old survival mechanism firing off in a context it was never designed to understand, because it has no way of knowing that this particular audience is not going to exile you from the tribe for saying, one too many times. Your body cannot tell the difference between a hostile stranger on the savannah and a bored colleague checking their phone in a conference room. Both register at the deepest biological level as a group whose approval you need and might not get. So what do you do with an alarm system this old, this blunt, and this loud? You don't fight it. You reframe it. Robert Sapolsky, a neuroendocrinologist who has spent years studying stress in primates, has pointed out something important about this kind of physiological arousal. The racing heart, the shaking hands, the surge of adrenaline, these are nearly identical whether your brain interprets the moment as a threat or as a challenge. The chemistry is the same, only the label is different, which means the shaking in your hands right before you speak isn't proof that something is wrong. It's proof that your body is doing exactly what it has always done when it senses an audience that matters. It's mobilizing you. It's not trying to sabotage you. It's trying to prepare you the same way it prepared your ancestors to speak carefully in front of the fire, to choose their next words as if survival depended on it. Because for them, it often did. Think about the last time you watched someone else speak in public and noticed their hands tremble slightly, or heard the smallest waver in their voice. Did you think less of them? Or did something in you recognize it quietly as proof that they cared about getting it right? That tremor is not weakness. It's 10,000 generations of your ancestors' voices asking the same silent question every time they stood in front of their group. Do I still belong here? Will what I say next help protect the people I love, or put me at risk of losing them? You are not broken when your hands shake before you speak. You are, in that exact moment, more connected to every human who ever stood before a group and hoped to be heard than you are to anyone who has ever felt nothing at all. Your hands were never shaking because something was wrong. They were shaking because, deep down, some part of you still remembers exactly how much it once meant to be believed.